All right, let's dive right in. We're about to tackle one of the biggest, most universal questions we all face. And for the answer, we're going to turn to some wisdom that's over 2,500 years old, coming straight from the Buddha.
I mean, this is it, right? The question that haunts all of us at some point. It just sits there, in the back of our minds. This great unknown. What actually happens when our time is up?
Well, according to the Buddha, the answer is probably not what you'd expect. It's not a final stop, it's not game over. Instead, think of it more like a doorway, a transition into something else.
Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we first have to kind of reframe how we think about consciousness itself, because it's not something that just switches off.
So you've got two really powerful ways of looking at it here. Most of us, we think of consciousness like that candle flame on the left. Once the body's gone, poof, it's just extinguished, a definite end. But the Buddha saw it completely differently. He saw it like the river on the right. The water is always moving. It's never the same twice, but the river itself just keeps on flowing. It's a continuum.
So how does this transition actually work? I mean, the physical process is pretty clear, right? The body breaks apart, the senses shut down, but, and this is the absolute key, your mental formations persist. What does that mean? It's your habits, your tendencies, all those deep-seated patterns you've built up your entire life. That is the energy that carries consciousness forward into whatever comes next. Okay, so if consciousness keeps flowing, what decides where it goes? Well, the engine driving this entire process is a natural law called karma. This chart here, it shows it perfectly. Just look at it. A life filled with positive actions, things like generosity and kindness, creates this really strong upward pull toward what you could call happy realms. But actions that come from anger or cruelty, they create a pull in the exact opposite direction, down toward those painful realms. Your actions are literally creating the momentum for your next rebirth. So what is karma exactly? At its core, it's just the law of cause and effect, but applied to our intentions and our actions. And look, this isn't some mystical, spooky thing. It's presented as a natural law, as impersonal and as reliable as gravity. What you put out there is what shapes your path. Simple as that. And it is so important to be clear about what karma isn't. This is not about some cosmic judge in the sky weighing your good and bad deeds. It's not punishment or reward. And it is definitely not some predetermined fate you can't escape. There is no external being making these calls for you. And all of this brings us to what is, for my money, the most empowering part of this whole idea. The focus isn't actually on death at all. The real focus is on your life, right here, right now. Because you see, you are the architect. And because of this, that huge question we started with, what happens when we die? Well, it turns out that might be the wrong question. There's a much more immediate and, frankly, a much more important question we should be asking ourselves. And there it is. This is the real question. What am I building with my thoughts, with my words, with my actions, right here, in this very moment? Because that is what's constructing your future. You see, the whole point is that your future isn't some far-off, unknown place. It is actively being shaped and molded in this very moment. Yeah, death is certain, but what comes after is a direct result of how you are living your life today. So when you really get this, it totally flips the script on the fear of death. It becomes this empowering call to action. It gives you a framework for living a life of intention, a life that you won't look back on with a mountain of regrets. And this idea, it's just captured perfectly in the Buddha's final message to his followers. He acknowledged that everything changes, everything is impermanent, all conditioned things decay. And then he gave this simple, powerful instruction: strive on with diligence. Basically, be mindful, be aware, because what you do really, really matters. So instead of being scared of the great mystery of death, this whole perspective invites us to ask a totally different question. A question that puts all the power squarely back in our own hands. Am I living, right now, in a way that I can face the end without regret? It's a pretty profound shift in focus, isn't it? Moving away from fearing what comes next and toward building a present that's actually worth living. If you're into digging up more ancient answers to our very modern fears, I hope you'll join us for the next one.